Hello, and welcome back to my newest review. This is going to be for Drake's newest project, For All the Dogs. After less than a year off, Drake has returned yet again with another project, and it is unfortunately another one that is half baked, half assed, and thrown together. Uh, as many people have pointed out over the internet, Drake is also kind of running out of topics here on this project. He pretty much just talks about the same thing on nearly every track, and it shows that he is not really in an interesting place in life and probably is overworking himself and is just saying the same things that we've heard over and over again. Not to mention that with a range of genres from rage to trap to R&B to dance even, the project has no concise feel or narrative to it at all, despite what the title of the project might suggest. uh, Starting off, Virginia Beach is actually a really nice opener that isn't the typical rap outing that people might expect from Drake to open with something like a Champagne Poetry or Free Smoke or something like that, where he's really lyrical. This instead has him a bit of in a moodier way where he still is rapping, but it's a little bit slower and definitely more R&B inspired with a Frank Ocean sample playing in the back. The production is really a highlight here as well. It's super smooth, and Drake does a really nice job on this, which again built hopes for a great project, despite everyone saying that it was an hour and 20 minutes and 23 tracks long. Next is the track Amen with Tizo Touchdown, which is another great song, but I feel like could have been a little bit longer as it makes you feel like you really want more and almost like it's an unfinished product, which really stinks. It has a nice piano playing throughout, and Tizo's choir vocals lay on top of the piano really well, and it has a massive Kanye feel to the song. Unfortunately, like I said, it was just cut short, and I think would have definitely benefited from another minute or even two to the track. Unfortunately, the album stops its short little streak there with Calling for You, where we get Drake not being able to pick up the pace at all for his entire verse and just, I don't know, rapping with no beat drop, nothing really of interest, and just going nowhere, which leads to this extremely long, like, interlude of some girl just talking and complaining about this, I guess, vacation that she's on and how they're being fed the same food. I don't even know. It's super drawn out and extremely boring, adds nothing to the track, and takes place over almost the majority of this track. And then it ends with 21 Savage, which would normally be a highlight for a Drake album or any modern day rap album, but instead we get a 21 Savage verse that is extremely boring, extremely like void of inspiration, and it feels like a verse that he would give to someone who he doesn't know or has no relation with and just paid for him to be on one of his songs. It really stinks, especially seeing him having some really standout moments on their collaboration album, Her Loss, from last year. So, I don't know. It was pretty crazy to see. I couldn't honestly really believe that we would get, I feel like, our first bad pairing between the two of them, besides a couple of stinkers that were on Her Loss. I mean, yeah, this one really missed the mark. It was I would say for me, it was probably my biggest disappointment going into the album, seeing that we would get such a lackluster collab between the two. Luckily, we pick up again at Fear of Heights, which picks up the pace with Drake deciding to dip into the rage side of rap. And there, we don't see him really giving the crazy vocals like we do with someone like Yeet or maybe a Playboy Cardi would, but he still delivers a pretty charismatic performance that's entertaining throughout the entire track. And I think that the short runtime helps with the track as well, because I don't think I could listen to 3 or even 4 minutes of this beat, which, because the beat's really nothing great. It's, a pretty boring rage beat, but it's still good for the short time that it's on. Daylight is decent as well, although I do laugh at Drake including a sample from the movie Scarface, because I don't think that really anybody thinks of Drake like the way they do Tony Montana. Um, but other than the intro, it is a fairly fun song. Nothing too crazy or really interesting to mention. Um, Drake just does a pretty decent rapping performance, and I'd say it's overall one of the highlights. We do also notably have Drake's son Adonis that appears on the outro with a beat switch to a kind of 90s inspired boom bap production. And honestly, I feel like everyone kind of agrees for a 5-year-old, Adonis did his thing. He stole the show. His inclusion, though, is actually it's really cute to see, and it was something that added a nice character to the track, and it really doesn't weigh it down at all. When we transition into the second best track on the entire album with First Person Shooter featuring J. Cole, here we have a pretty stellar performance from J. Cole, which I feel like everyone can come to expect with his crazy run of features that he's been on for the past couple of years. But even on here, we see Drake not having the same capabilities that J. Cole has and doesn't deliver on the same front that he does. J. Cole is rapping about, him, Drake, and Kendrick being the top three in rap right now, and no one can dethrone them, and he's just having all these clever bars and, this very grand performance, and then it beat switches to Drake, and then Drake's verse is just bullshit. It's just him rapping about girls, and he's got all these girls that have teen in their name, like Justine, Pauline, I don't know, whatever. It's stupid, and it contributes nothing to the track. It's like, I don't know, it's I mean, it's ironic that Cole is like giving Drake mad props on his verse and is like praising him, and then he's just delivering this verse, which, I don't know, it completely contrasts what he says. It's not clever at all. And I mean, luckily J. Cole's on here, because he absolutely saves the track. But yeah, I don't know, it's interesting to say the least. But they should have had Kendrick on it. I've seen a lot of people say that. I mean, when you're mentioning the big three in rap, you should have got him on it. But I don't know, supposedly Drake and Kendrick are having this like beef that's been going on for years. I don't know, I don't follow it all too much, but still, it would have been crazy to see. I Don't Give a Fuck, ironically, at the time of recording this, is the #1 best-selling or streaming song from the entire album, and I really couldn't care less about it. For Yeat standards, it's a pretty plain song. I haven't listened to him too much, but I feel like this track is really nothing special. But Drake's verse really is just another subpar performance. Yeah, nothing to really say. Doesn't do anything for me. 7969 Santa is alright. I like the Chief Keef sample, and Tizo really steals the show on the outro with his grand, harmonious performance. And I do like the Snoop Dogg inclusion for the whole like radio broadcast. I wish that the album had played into that a little bit more, because it would have been interesting to see. Although we did see The Weeknd do it a lot better on Dawn FM, but still, not that he's the first person to ever do a radio show for an album. Even Vince Staples did that in like 2018, but still, it would have been cool for him to do and play out a little bit more. Slime You Out, I actually wasn't a huge fan of when the single was released, but now hearing it in full context of the album, I actually really like it, and I think it fits a lot better, and especially when you hear some of the stinkers that we're going to hear later on, it really does a good job. And I think Drake and SZA both slide really nicely on here, and even though Drake, of course, does have some really cheesy bars, like everyone's pointing out, the in July, that's when I figured out that you lied. It's like, I don't know, stuff like that. It's funny, but it's not like the worst thing ever. Still a good listen overall. Bahama Promises is a bit of a drag, with Drake recounting a past lover, which he name drops. Whoa. and tells about how he believes that she cheated on him and ruined his vacation to the Bahamas. With a really stripped back production, it really only focuses on the piano to back up the vocals, which I think is nice. Although I do think that adding some more light percussion to it would have been really nice and could have helped at points, because I think Drake's vocals are a bit too sleepy on this track and really just missed the mark overall. But it isn't the worst thing on here. Like, if someone says that they really like this one, it's not like, I'm going to give them, some crazy look or something. It still isn't too bad. Tried Our Best, though, picks up just before another drop off. Similar to the previous track, we have another more stripped back production, which almost touches on a sort of like gospel R&B mix, and has Drake picking up the pace a little bit than he was on the previous track. And I think this is one of the better highlights from the entire LP. Screw the World Interlude is a cool homage to the legendary DJ Screw, but it honestly simply just does not fit on this project. Drake, for one, really doesn't use much of what DJ Screw does in his raps, and he also doesn't like rap with the same style of production. He's also not even from Houston, which, I mean, just because you're not from Houston doesn't mean you can't like pay homage to someone or take inspiration from them. But this would have made a lot more sense coming from someone like Travis Scott, who did his homage to DJ Screw on R.I.P. Screw from 2018's Astroworld, or someone even more notably like A$AP Rocky, who I feel like is, if you were to say like, ask a big rap head, who uses a lot of DJ Screw styles and techniques, you would obviously say A$AP Rocky. He chops up and screws a lot of his music, and it's like clear that that's his like biggest inspiration. I really have nothing to say about Drew Picasso. Super boring track. Honestly, nothing notable from this. Luckily, though, we get Members Only, What Would Pluto Do, All the Parties, and 8 A.M. in Charlotte, which makes for a really nice 4-track run before we get into the awful, awful ending of this project. Members Only and All the Parties are both really smooth R&B cuts with killer performances from from Party Next Door, who absolutely steals the show on Members Only. Chief Keef, though, unfortunately gets cut way too short on All the Parties and only is on it for like 15 seconds. He delivers one chorus, and that's it. I would have really loved to see him on that more. But yeah, 8 A.M. in Charlotte is the biggest highlight of the whole entire album, with Drake going into one of his signature timestamp songs where he gets really lyrical and pulls his golden pen out to write better than any other song in the entire whole hour 20-minute experience that is this album. If anyone is going to check out one song from this project, it would definitely be this song. Yeah, it's fantastic. The last 6 tracks, though, are all awful, in my opinion. Starting out with BBL Love, which I think is purposely supposed to be like a joke or kind of goofy, with Drake giving lines about how he has to like feel an ass to make sure it's fake or not, and like, would this girl still be with him if he wasn't Drake, and what, I don't know. It's so goofy. I mean, I would recommend it if you want like a good laugh, because it's so stupid. But I mean, when you're supposed to be presenting like a serious project, including something like this is just like, I don't know, what are you doing? It just doesn't do anything for me. Then, I mean, speaking of laughable moments, we then have Gently, which sees Drake pair up with international icon Bad Bunny. And this really stinks, and it's not because Bad Bunny, but because we see Drake do this horrible, awful accent that I feel like is almost like racist. I mean, it sounds like he's almost like mocking Bad Bunny. It's horrible, and it's super cringy to hear. Bad Bunny is great, though. If I could just have his like last, he takes up a majority of the track, so if I could just listen to his like minute and a half on this, it'd be great. It'd be cool, but yeah, that Drake part is really bad. I cannot unrecommend it enough. It's horrible and is pretty close to being one of the worst moments on the album, but we do have some more coming up. Next, Rich Baby Daddy could have been a great track for the album with a super fun and dancey beat that was done super well. And I think it should have been a solo SZA track, either on SOS or whatever her next album is going to be. But I think, unfortunately, Drake drops the ball on this and really doesn't add anything unique to the track with his parts. But then he also puts on Sexy Red, who has to be one of my least favorite artists to come out as of recently. She has a super tone-deaf voice and could have been better delivered by, honestly, any other female artist that's out right now. It's just like, yeah, it's not good. And I hate her performance on this. And I think she, if it was just Drake and SZA, it would have been one thing. And it would have been a decent track with SZA carrying, but instead you have Sexy Red on this for most of the runtime, and it just completely ruins the song and turns what could have been an amazing or great song into a pretty bad one, in my opinion. She completely ruined what could have been. Drake and Lil Yachty come through on another late night with something, I guess. Drake finally addresses the memes about him talking to Millie Bobby Brown, but threatens violence against anyone who would make a joke about that to him. Like any civilized adult would threaten violence. Which, by the way, it still is super creepy that Drake was a 31-year-old man talking to a 14-year-old girl and giving her dating advice or about boys, something along those lines. Yeah, that shit is still super weird, and I think that Drake deservingly should still be clowned on for that. And yeah, I don't know. He got a lot of hate for it. This is his first time addressing it, which, hey, bro, you're a little late. You should defend yourself way sooner, but not a good look. But speaking of not a good look, we have Yachty, who not only delivers a bland and uncharismatic rap verse, he also delivers, I think, single-handedly the worst line on the entire album, which he said, he's rapping about whatever, this girl who he's with, and he delivers a line, big tits like Billie Eilish, but she can't sing. And not only is this line really tasteless and really awful considering how avid Billie is against sexualization of her and other girls like her, seeing Yachty talk about one of his peers like this, like someone who is not only super close in age with him, but especially like someone who is probably in some of the same circles that he's in. I mean, Billie Eilish hangs out with like a lot of the same rappers that Yachty does. It's pretty disgusting and makes him respect him even less, and it's super disappointing seeing from someone like him who is getting a lot of praise this year, with him releasing such a good project. He's kind of been in the limelight as of recently, and it was just, yeah, it's disgusting and awful to hear. The last two tracks are sleepers. Honestly, I have nothing to say about them. They, again, are super fucking boring. That's it. But believe it or not, we are still doing the highest highs section. For best vocal performance, I will give it to Tried Our Best, which, like I said earlier, is a really nice R&B cut, and I think Drake does a really good job on here, and is by far his best vocal performance. Best production will go to 8am and Charlotte. This sees Drake almost kind of dipping into a bit of a Griselda bag with a nice conductor beat, and it's very grand and luxurious, and yeah, I really like it. Like I said, best song on the project by far. And best songwriting also will go to 8am in Charlotte, where Drake, signature timestamp songs, where he pulls out his best songwriting and really shows his capabilities that for some reason leaves off of almost every other track that he has been putting out as of recently. My favorite bar is also going to be from 8am in Charlotte, no surprise there, and it is, I got you on camera bowing down, but the footage is safe. Thank God, another USB to put in the safe. Thank God, at the crib, dipping my foot in the lake. I swear that y'all turned me into the villain I couldn't escape. Heat. The best feature performance is going to be Tizo Touchdown on Amen. I think he absolutely steals the show, both moments that he is on the project, And SZA, I would say, is a close second, and so is J. Cole, but Tizo really does, an amazing performance when he is on Amen, and really did wonders on that. This album, though, was a mess and was such a ride to get through. A long, 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 long ride. As many people have stated, this should have been cut down to like 10 or 12 songs. And if he did that, it could have been one of, if not, his greatest project. But instead, he filled it with bloat, and I think it shows Drake's complacency and comfort at where he is at in the rap game. He knows that if he drops a bunch of filler on his projects, it just won't matter because the average listener is just not going to care. And I mean, it's just a shame to see because, he has put out some honestly really good projects, but, lately he's just been dropping a lot of bad stuff and such filler. So, yeah, I would give my enjoyment about a 48%. Unfortunately, this ended up being one of my least favorite Drake projects of all time, where unfortunately I was hoping for it to be one of his best, with I think, a cool cover art, drawn by Drake's son. I liked how dark and kind of eerie it looked, and with the title, being For All the Dogs, you think that it's going to be something for like the guys in a sense that he said, and with him saying it was the return of the old Drake, it was super exciting to look forward to, but unfortunately he just dropped the ball and ironically rapped almost exclusively about girls on the entire thing. So yeah, there's a great tweet from Hip Hop by the Numbers about everything Drake raps about. I would recommend just checking that out. It's very funny. Maybe I'll just put a screenshot of it. But yeah, that's my review. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you want to see more. Check out my Instagram and TikTok for my daily random song suggestion series. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye now.